Cut the wire a little long, so I'll trim the ends. And while the pot's upside down, I'll go ahead and feed my tie-down wires. Just want to get them snug across the bottom. Okay, that's what goes into prepping a pot, getting it ready. You always want to tie the tree in. You don't want the wind to be blowing the tree and moving the new roots or breaking the root tips off. That's a great way to lose a plant quickly. So since we do grow in containers, it's important to secure the plant into the container. So now I'll add some soil. I'm going to finish root pruning the tree. You saw me saw it off. Now I need to clean up the edges a little bit. And actually make it so it'll fit into this pot. It's still a little bit large for this pot. Then I'll add soil, get the tree secured in with the wires, and then finish with the soil. So we move on. I just want to clean up the edges of the roots a little bit. Get any of these roots that have been winding around the pot cut back. I'm getting some of the old soil out of the tree. The last thing I'll do is spray it with a water hose and really get it cleaned up. So that's about all I'll do on these upper edges. I'll do the same thing across the bottom here. As you can see is a fair amount. You'll be able to see it better once I wash it. I'm going to go ahead and prune here. So nice clean cuts on these root tips. That's important. They'll tend to come back faster if you've got good clean. So keep your root shears sharp. All right, time for a spray. See, we really didn't cut through that many roots there. There's a couple roots that were growing sideways that we cut through long ways, but the other ones were pretty small. They weren't that huge. So you can see they're like the branches, the roots ramify pretty quickly. So you can get away with cutting it back like we just did. All right, we'll check it in the pot now. All right, that looks good. That'll fit no problem. Plenty of room to grow in there. In fact, I'll probably have it so it's raised up a little bit more. So now it's time for some soil. It's sifted decomposed pine bark, turfus, and a little bit of decomposed granite that I strain out at the river. That's my basic bonsai soil mix. You want to make sure you get good contact in this situation because this is cut so flat. I don't want any pockets of air under there, so I really want to twist the tree around, twist the twist the tree around a little bit. Make sure I've got good contact. Now I add a little bit more soil and I'll tie down the wires to secure the tree there. I don't put the cut paste on until the end because I'm still handling the tree, and I'll end up with it all over my fingers. So. I use the chopsticks just to settle the soil down in between the roots, and once again to make sure there are no air pockets. You don't want any pockets of air. You need soil that breathes and that oxygen moves through and air moves through, but you don't want any big pockets. Just securing the wires down to make sure the tree's snug in the pot. Typically, I like to be able to pick the tree up by the trunk. I don't do that all the time, but that's how secure I like to have the tree in the pot. I really should have used a little heavier wire since this is kind of a heavy tree in a big pot, so I'm not going to, well, loosened it up. So. Okay, I've been looking at this tree and looking at this tree, and this is where I originally thought the front was. I'm not sure if it's not going to be more interesting from over here, but this stump keeps bothering me. It's growing out of the inside of this big curve here. It also creates a little reverse taper. So I think I've done so much to this tree, now's the time to go ahead and fix this. So I'm going to cut this stump out completely, and hopefully another branch will sprout right there. That would be perfect. But that wouldn't be inside the curve. This is really inside the curve, and as I said, it kind of creates some reverse taper. So I'm going to do I'm going to cut it two different ways. I'm going to cut in, and then I'm going to cut down. Alright, so that was the sideways cut. Now I'm going to cut down. I'm just going to kind of take an L-shaped chunk out of here, and then I'll clean it up with the, probably with the grinder. So that really improves the taper on this tree. And even after it's cleaned up, it'll look even better. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it. Time to soak it good, and then we'll put cut paste on it. Paste. I use the Play-Doh like clay type of Japanese cut paste. I've just always had good success with it. And the most important thing to do when you're putting cut paste on is make sure that the edges are sealed, or are not really sealed, but are protected and maintained moist. If they dry out, the wound's not going to heal. So that's my reason for using cut paste, is to make sure that those edges where I have left a nice clean cut will begin to heal and roll over, callus over. The secret to putting on cut paste is to having a wet fingertip. It's got to be wetter than what the tree is. The cut paste sticks to the drier surface. So as long as your finger's moist and wet, you're good to go. Now, I could seal this whole little area, but I think I'm just going to seal the edges because that's the part that's important. I'm using way more cut paste than I really need. But that's fine. Once it starts to callus underneath, this cut paste will crack and split apart. It becomes obvious, and at that point you can just remove it. So, because it's done its job. Once it starts to heal over, you don't need the cut paste anymore. So. Last step, especially aftercare is everything with these guys, I'm going to add just a fine layer of sphagnum moss, maybe an eighth, a quarter inch thick, and what this does basically is just help the tree maintain moisture. This soil is pretty free draining. You probably saw that while I was watering it, and this will help maintain a level of moisture to help this tree recover. Once it's recovered and established in the pot, it doesn't need this anymore. Last little trick I do is I use my thumb on the edge of the soil surface to indent the soil a little bit lower than the edge of the pot. That way, when you're watering it, the water tends to hit that edge and go down and not over. Alright, there you go. That's a drastic reduction of both the top of the plant and the roots. This was Yopon holly. We left a few leaves on there. But now you can see this tree, which was originally from a nursery and was probably 3 foot in diameter and better than 3 foot tall. Now it's going to end up making almost a show hen size tree, so a small size tree. But it's going to have a super powerful trunk. So this is to me, this is a really good example of you've got to get the trunk you want before you ever put it in a bonsai pot. And so now that I have a trunk line, I've got big base and nice roots, I'll start developing the branches. So if I'd have put this little stick in a pot, in a bonsai pot, and expected it to grow over the years, it never would have happened. You have to find them big and use the subtraction method of bonsai and reduce them and regrow them. So there you go, that's it. May never be a super tree, but it'll be alright.